Hey, this video comes in two parts. The first part is I'll talk a little bit about how I came to guitar, actually twice. Um, and I hope, in the comments, put in how you got into guitar and where you're at. And as the second part, I'm going to play something and you have to guess what it is. Um, Depending on how much I butcher it, it'll be easier or harder, right? Now, I started playing guitar in 2005, actually. I'd The backstory is I'd given up my old job. I had a career. I gave up my old job. I took what I thought was going to be a 1 year off. It became 5 years. Anyway, 18 months in, I'm in Byron Bay, Australia, hanging out with this cool group of people. Um, there's a guy there, I think his name was Gillum, and he was playing guitar, he was singing. We had a whole lot of sing alongs. It was loads of fun. And it tweaked something. I've always been massively into music. I've always imagined myself playing on stage and whatever. But pie in the sky stuff, right? Anyway, I moved to New Zealand as part of I was going to work there, and I bought a guitar. I watched a lot of rugby on TV, and I taught myself five chords, and I learned some bits of some songs that I knew. I then moved to Japan, and my guitar got broken in transit. I bought another one, but I think I kept going more or less, but I still had these five chords, and I was only really looking for songs that had those five chords, which from memory were probably A minor, G, C, D, and E. Um, anyway, there are plenty of options with that, but also it limits your options. And I was playing without a pick. I was just I was fingernail strumming, so. Which, okay, sounds a bit shit, but anyway, it is what it is. But that's what I was up to. I had no real plan, no idea. I got bored. I lost interest. It's game over. And this is the second time in my life that I'd not learnt to play an instrument. Echoes of trumpet lessons, but no practice when I was 11. Um, that's the backstory. But fast forward to the pandemic, and which perhaps maybe coincided with a midlife crisis of sorts. But I bought a second-hand guitar and I signed up for this 30-day online thing that also came with a year's subscription of other lessons and so on. And I followed it. I thought, what the hell? I did it. And so fast. And then a year later, I was still going. Actually, I was better, but still crap, of course. The course beyond the 30 days didn't really float my boat for various reasons. It wasn't my style of music, or wasn't really what I was after. But what that course gave me was a sense that I could go beyond those five basic chords, that I actually could, also that I had to if I wanted to do it. Gave me a sense of how strumming worked, and it also gave me a really good sense of the fact that progress was going to be slow, right? You don't measure progress in days, you measure progress in years. Technical glitches. And actually, what it also gave me was a sense of playing guitar that was, in part about getting better, but in a way even more so than that. It was actually a different space, sometimes almost a meditative space, somewhere to escape, where when you're focused on it and you're learning to do something or getting frustrated about something and you're just really in the groove in many ways, everything else ceases to exist and you are just somewhere else, actually. And there are times when it just flows super nicely and you're elsewhere. And it's musical and it's rhythmic and it's creative, and that's super cool. So I developed a habit, and 5 years later and a couple of guitars down the line, I'll talk about that some other time, I still play every day, on 98 days out of 100. Every day after we've had our evening meal, tea, supper, whatever you call it, I say, I'm going to go twanging, and I do 10 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, depending on what else is going on. And I guess where I'm at now is I love it, and maybe I'm somewhere towards the end of beginner / early intermediate based on what sort of tutorials I find online, and people say this is intermediate or wherever, and I can kind of do it or kind of not, whatever. So how did you get into guitar? How was it for you, and where are you at? And kind of, where did you get stuck? Is this your second time? Is this your third time? Did you buy one 50 years ago and then pick one up later? That seems to be common too. put some stuff in the comments. The second part of the video, here is the name that tune part. And again, let's go back to the pandemic. So my other half and I, we're in the house pretty much without leaving other than walking the dog. And in the evenings, you watch TV. There's nothing else you can do, right? Give or take. Outside my guitar practice and hanging out with, kids or whatever, reading books, but not so much. And we watched a very well-known TV series, and this TV series had run for multiple versions, right? As in it was on series, whatever it was, Series X. But we came into it, we hadn't watched any of the other ones, we'd ignored the hype at the time. And so we were able to binge watch all of the series at once. And the theme tune is an absolute earworm. Absolute earworm. You kind of find yourself humming it or singing it all the time. And as part of that, I was browsing around online and I found an online tutorial on how to play the song, or at least the rhythm part of the song, which I'll play today. And some of the chords I knew, not the bar chord. So it's got an A minor, E, G, A minor again. It's got an F bar and it's got a D minor. That was a new one for me. I had to kind of work that out. And one of the things I found super hard with that was actually because it has a really cool rhythm to it. And even once I'd learned the rhythm, the pick kept shifting or falling out of my hand. And I mean, much, much later, I found these picks that have these little ridges in, and they're really flexible, these Ernie Ball lights, anyway, whatever. But it took me about 6 months for the pick not to fall out of my hand after about 30 seconds. I don't know how I learnt to do it, but I just got there eventually. It just stopped falling out. And the other thing I worked out from this was that I know there is this stuff called the circle of fifths, and I don't understand it. I'll talk about that some other time. But once you know some chords that go together, then you can muck about with those chords. I do that a lot. I learn a song, but I also spend quite a long time mucking about with those chords in different iterations. So this one, for example, something I play nearly every time I pick up the guitar, I have done for 5 years, just as part of my sort of warm-up or getting going, uses this chord progression, which goes something like this. So you can do fun stuff with that. So I'll play the actual thing that I was supposed to play, and for people that can't get it because I'm too terrible or they don't know, I'll put a clue at the end. I'll also put in a link to the lesson if you want to go and find out how to play that. I found that lesson super, super helpful, but it's capo third fret. I don't like using capo very much. It sounds kind of tinny or crap. That's just my ear or my playing or both. Whatever. So I'll put a clue at the end, but this is how it goes. Anyway, can you guess what it is? And listen to it again if you want to, or if you want a clue, there's this. Ignore the bollocks up in the middle. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Supposedly this stuff makes a difference. I am actually genuinely interested in hearing from people, particularly if they've got advice to share. Thanks. Bye.